From KCET Los Angeles, this is SoCal Connected. On this edition,
where are we going?
Middle-class families who never imagined they could become homeless.
We had it all. How did this go wrong?
Now, more and more families are finding themselves kicked to the streets.
It's people who are earning very good livings who lost their jobs because our economy has tanked.
And LA Times consumer columnist David Lazarus has a warning for anyone trying to get help paying a mortgage. Beware of the scams.
They pay their money and then the money vanishes.
Plus, LA Times columnist Steve Lopez has tonight's commentary.
Thousands of people in Southern California are living on the brink.
That's next on SoCal Connected. SoCal Connected is made possible through the generous support of the Amundsen Foundation, serving the Los Angeles community since 1952, with additional funding from Jim and Ann Rothenberg, Linda and Abbott Brown, the Elizabeth Hoffert Daily Trust, the John Randolph Haynes and Dora Haynes Foundation, by U.S. Bank, and by UCLA. SoCal Connected begins after this.
In my laboratory at UCLA, we are now able to take skin cells and turn them into embryonic stem cell-like cells. With this technology, it could just change how we think about certain diseases. So that is the promise of the embryonic stem cell research. It's just has excited so many people that they are now able to really go into studying something that they couldn't have studied 3 years ago. It's just, for me, it's very cool, and for these people, I hope it makes a difference in their research as well. The stem cell field is moving fast.
Since 1863, the dreams of millions have taken off with us, U.S. Bank. As our country has grown stronger, so have we. Today, we are one of America's strongest banks, focused on the future and eager to lend. So every dream, big or small, can keep growing stronger. Imagine what you can do when you have all of us serving you. U.S. Bank.
From the KCET studios, Val Zavala.
Good evening. They are the new casualties of economic hard times. Comfortably settled middle-class families who never thought it could happen to them, now scrambling to find a place to live. You don't see them on the streets. They live discreetly in cars, garages, or if they're lucky, with a relative or in a shelter. They are the hidden homeless. Families are, in fact, the fastest growing segment of the homeless population. Correspondent Lisa Ling has our report.
Can you give me the mayonnaise out of the fridge, please, honey?
Yeah.
It's a typical morning for Mary and Larry Steele, feeding their 2-year-old Jesse.
Honey, where's Jess?
He's right here.
All right.
Making sandwiches for lunch in their spacious kitchen.
We should probably put napkins on the shopping list.
Baby, you want some pickles in this?
Sure.
Do you need anything else besides cereal?
No.
Okay.
In another part of town, it's a similar scene with Anastasia Groulet and her 11-year-old daughter, Anna.
For lunch, can I have peanut butter sandwich? Yeah, we can do that. Okay.
But this large room isn't Anastasia's apartment, and this attractive kitchen doesn't belong to Mary and Larry. Both families are living in homeless shelters.
Wait a minute. You know, the tapes start going in your head. Wait a minute, where could it, what, how, that, yeah, we had it all. How did this go wrong? How could Larry and Mary have ended up here?
Here is the Door of Hope shelter in Pasadena, which Mary and Larry share with 8 other families with children. They can stay for up to a year, receiving free financial and family counseling, but living with a curfew and without television.
Beautiful. Thanks. Nice Victorian. What was it like just before you moved in? I mean, I know that there's a huge waiting list to get in here.
As far as our lives?
Yeah.
Total chaos. It's been chaos for about 3 years.
It's all right, girl.
The strain is often hard to hide.
It's just an ego shot, baby. It's okay.
It's happening to so many people right now, right?
It wasn't supposed to be like this, especially since it all started with a fairy tale romance.
For me, it was love at first sight. I saw her walk into my friend's backyard for a birthday party, and I told my two friends, I'm going to marry that girl. And my friend Tom said, if you marry that girl, I'll buy you a tuxedo.
And that's just what happened 2 years later at Mission Santa Barbara. After the wedding, Mary and Larry bought their first house, the one they call the Foothill House. It was completely affordable, but they soon sold it thinking it was too small for the baby they hoped to have. So they bought a second house.
We completely redid the exterior and the interior. This is a deck that Larry drew, built, painted, so it was just such a nice retreat sanctuary for us.
But this house cost $100,000 more than the first one. Then Mary and Larry made what they say was the biggest mistake of their lives. They started pulling out equity.
We deluded ourselves into thinking that, oh, we don't need to plan, we don't need to set anything aside, we don't need any kind of prudent reserve because it's just going to keep coming. Because at that time, the real estate market was climbing, and I was happy to take advantage of that because I was starting to get greedy, and I liked having the home equity from our first house to just play with. It was like Monopoly money. I never thought that it would come due, and now it's due, and I learned the hard way.
Wow. Bye. Bye.
When Mary got laid off from her job as a legal assistant, the couple sold that second house to start a new life in Mary's hometown, Santa Barbara. By then, things were owning them. Tell us about the stuff that you had.
What did we had cars. We had 4 vehicles at one time.
We had a new Harley Davidson, we had a new Chevy Suburban, we had a new Mercedes Benz, we had a white picket fence.
We had a Honda.
We lived 2 blocks from the beach.
Good catch.
There you go.
But Mary's new career in real estate wasn't taking off, and Larry's job contacts were in LA. They had a baby, a $4,500 a month mortgage, and the house in Santa Barbara was now a house of cards.
The anxiety level was unbelievable. Just trying to keep the whole thing going, because it was a time bomb. It was absolutely a time bomb.
Would you say that the past few years really tested your marriage?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We were on the brink of divorce. I mean, we should probably dismiss that case.
Yeah, we were. We walked into divorce court holding hands. I thought her life would be better if she got involved with another man who was, better off than I was. And I thought I would actually be doing my son a favor by, having someone I'd never met raise him.
They sold the Santa Barbara house for not much profit. Their cars got repossessed, they put everything in storage, and Mary moved in with her dad.
I had to stay down here and work and send all my money up to Mary and the baby. I couldn't pay rent, so I lived in a tool shed with no running water, no kitchen. I was eating hand to mouth, literally. I'd lost weight.
Oh no, says Dallas Dog, no trouble.
Then they heard about Door of Hope, which is dedicated to keeping families together. Most shelters separate by gender, so dads and teenage boys often can't stay in areas designated for women. That's not the case here. Tell us about what it's like to not have as much privacy anymore when you're living with all of these couples and additional kids.
We have more privacy now than we have in the last 3 years.
Yeah, we actually do have more privacy right now. It's our room.
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah.
What did you think when you first walked in?
I thought we were going to have a teeny little space, but this was just, oh, wow. Now, I would like to have a house again. That part, I still dream about that house on Foothill Boulevard. That's a tough one.
Like the Steeles, Anastasia Groulet never imagined she'd be living with her daughter in a shelter, especially one in Boyle Heights.
Anna, I'm going to go sign out. I'll be right back. As far as I was concerned, there really was no option or no emotional decision on it. I mean, it's pretty much survival. So I said to myself, okay, what's the address? I'm going there now. No, I think it's about 6:45. I don't want to be late. No, we'll be fine.
It's far different from the neighborhood where she used to live.
This is my old neighborhood, Valley Village, which I would consider to be upscale. In fact, they even do a lot of movies here. My rent was actually $1,700 a month, which at that time I was able to afford it because of my income.
which was $67,000 a year as an executive assistant until her company had a round of cutbacks.
I certainly never thought with the income that I was making, and I had a 401k and a Roth IRA and some annuities, that I would ever be in this type of situation.
When I first met Anastasia and saw Anna, her daughter, they lived around the corner from me. We went to the same Starbucks. Our girls go to the same school. That was staggering. Are you meeting with Tatiana and Alex?
Yes, I'm going.
Stephanie Klasky-Gamer is the CEO of LA Family Housing. Her former neighbor, Anastasia, lives in one of the shelters run by that agency.
The spike in unemployment over the past year, the past 18 months, that's where we've seen the homelessness among families just triple.
I don't know if I should play the clarinet or the saxophone.
The sax would be nice, something different.
Determined to keep her daughter in familiar surroundings, Anastasia burns up about $100 a week driving Anna to their old neighborhood for school.
Give me a kissy. Have a good one. Bye. I did a voluntarily reposition on my Mazda Miata. Got myself a 1994 Dodge salvage van, only paid $3,500 for, and my daughter and I lived in it for 3 months.
In the evenings, they'd spend time at the public library, and a sympathetic employee at this fitness center let mother and daughter shower here before bedding down at night.
Actually, I would park about a block or two away from the elementary school, just so I wouldn't feel scared. What we would do in the morning, we would head off to Starbucks, and being that they have a single bathroom unit for the ladies, lock the door and take a quick sponge bath, brush our teeth, and get ourselves together again.
These days, Anastasia's routine includes getting a free lunch at LA Family Housing. She also meets with a counselor, gets free household items,
and paper towels.
and looks for work online.
Email your resume.
Okay.
Send it in.
I have my flash drive with me
Beautiful.
right now.
Beautiful. Send it in.
This is not my usual lifestyle. It's just a temporary situation that I'm in. I'm going to get over it and move on. I just need a job, really.
It's people who are homeless for the first time. It's people who are earning very good livings. Professionals who lost their jobs because our economy has tanked.
Larry Steele estimates he's making a third less on far fewer jobs.
15, 16, 18.
He also drives around looking for business, coincidentally in the very same neighborhood where Anastasia used to live.
Here's a big roll-away dumpster. This is what I've been looking for. I'm gonna come back tomorrow and see if a nice contractor needs a helping hand.
And Mary keeps looking for work too.
We're not hiring right now, but I'll keep this on file. We keep it on file for about 6 months.
Sometimes I go to this dark, dark, dark place, like I'm never gonna work again, and might as well just, throw in the towel, and I get really scared.
Yeah, we're gonna wear your frog shirt today.
It was just a series of poor decisions based on wishful thinking rather than a realistic appraisal of what we could and could not do. And anybody who wants to judge me for that, they're going to have to take a look inside themselves and ask themselves how far away are they from knocking on the front door here and being my new roommate.
I'm Lisa Ling for SoCal Connected.
Mary Steele didn't get that job at the market, but she just landed a job at a department store for the holidays. As for Anastasia Groulet, that hot job lead didn't go anywhere. She is still unemployed, still looking for work every day.
Up next, buyer beware. LA Times consumer columnist David Lazarus.
Tonight, a consumer alert. You're in a mortgage you can't afford, and you could lose your home. Then you hear from a company who claims it can help. You sign up, but there's no help and things get even worse. LA Times consumer columnist David Lazarus takes us inside the often unscrupulous world of loan modifications.
Our story begins amid the wreckage of the Southern California real estate boom. Brown lawns, green swimming pools, abandoned homes, neighborhoods that were, and that might have been. Everywhere you look, the signs of failure, the losses are epic. Last February, the president said he had a plan to help.
By refinancing loans for millions of families in traditional mortgages who are underwater or close to it, by modifying loans for families stuck in subprime mortgages they can't afford as a result of skyrocketing interest rates or personal misfortune.
What's not to like? All borrowers needed was a little cooperation from the newly bailed out banks.
You'd think these banks would have been sympathetic to the fact that the housing market was heading south. You'd think they'd want to work with customers to deal with those upwardly adjusting interest rates. You would think the banks would figure that it's better to keep someone in their home paying at least a little something as opposed to nothing. You'd be wrong. The banks kept customers at arm's length, and an entire cottage industry was born.
Google loan modification service and you get almost 790,000 listings. Some are legit. Most are just scams to separate you from your money at a time when you're at your most vulnerable. How big a problem is loan modification fraud? Last year, 163 complaints were lodged with the state attorney general's office. From January to October of this year, that number exploded to 2,500.
I think it is a tremendous problem. I am also concerned that the problem is only going to grow through the rest of this year in 2010.
Benjamin Deal is a deputy attorney general for the state of California Consumer Protection Division.
The stories are unfortunately almost all the same. There is a television ad, a radio ad, an internet ad that promises a high success rate, that promises the sort of miracles to save their home that the homeowner is desperate to find that they think they can't. And it unfortunately suckers them in, they pay their money, and then the money vanishes.
The governor signed a law recently that outlaws upfront fees for loan modification companies. But it takes almost nothing to get into the game.
All they have to do is set up a website, and as we've seen, the homeowners come to them rather than the other way around.
But the tried and true methods are still effective. This is Elsa Escarrega. She was a marketer for a loan modification company called Salve Su Casa, Spanish for Save Your Home. Salve worked a very specific demographic, first-generation, poorly educated, Spanish-speaking immigrants. Elsa's job would begin by phoning prospective clients using a script written by her boss.
Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es Elsa Escárcega, trabajo para la compañía Salve Su Casa.
We will have to say we're calling from a legal group. Our name is Salve Su Casa. We are a company that are interested in the good of the Hispanic community. We know that we have some information that tells us that you might have some problems with your mortgage.
Muchas gracias por su interés. Yo me voy a contactar con usted mañana.
Once Elsa found a potential client, next came the personal touch. She and her fellow marketers would visit the client's home and try to convince them to come back to Salve's office with their loan paperwork to close the deal.
What if the homeowner started asking questions about how you operate?
We will pretty much just evade the questions and try to convince them to make an appointment to go to the office.
And how much could that one office trip cost? $1,300 in advance.
You're probably wondering how Elsa and Salve Su Casa even knew where to look for clients. Elsa says that information came from her boss. Guess where she says he got the info?
My supervisor used to work for Countrywide.
Yes, that's Countrywide Financial, one of the biggest lenders at the epicenter of the subprime mortgage meltdown.
The documents that he gave you, were they Countrywide documents?
Yes, they were Countrywide.
How did he get them?
He got them because he used to work for them.
He took them.
That's what he said.
Elsa says she quit the $250 a week gig at Salve after less than a month because she was hurting people. Salve Su Casa is shut down now, or perhaps just operating under a new name, a common practice in this business. But don't think for a moment that higher education or fluency in English makes you any less susceptible to the loan modification sales pitch. This is Karen Johnson and her son Caleb. She's a college graduate, a school teacher, and a single mom. She fell behind on her mortgage payments and tried to negotiate a lower rate with her lender, the ubiquitous Countrywide.
They were sympathetic to a point, but it was like every time you call, you get a different person who told you something different. So they appeared to be sympathetic, but not really giving a solution.
A friend in a similar position told Karen about a company called California Foreclosure Prevention.
So when you contacted them, what did they say they could do for you?
They said they could get me a modification within 30 to 45 days. And the guy, he actually stated to me he had a contact within Countrywide, so, you know, he can get them kind of pushed through pretty fast.
The fee was $2,500, as usual, up front. Johnson paid $500 payments twice a month. You probably can figure out where things went from there.
I'm already behind on my mortgage. Now, tax bills are becoming due. I have homeowners insurance payments due. My income is already come to a stop for 2 months. Everything was beginning to pile on top of each other. Again, in a desperate situation, I think I took desperate measures.
Karen eventually took a step that should have been among her very first.
I went online to check out California foreclosure prevention about a week ago, and I just found out they received an F rating from the Better Business Bureau. And one of the complaints that I read was that they had promised the service basically that they could not provide.
Karen's loan is now delinquent, 11 payments behind. But she's hooked up with a reputable, nationally certified counseling agency to work out a modification with her current lender, Bank of America, Countrywide's new owner.
Are you afraid of losing your home?
No, I'm not. I'm not afraid only at this point because I just feel, you know, I'm going to fight for it. You know, I went through a lot to purchase this home. You know, I saved $30,000, first of all, and that's what I actually put down. Went to school, you know, as a single parent. You know, went back and got my BA. So a lot went into buying this home. So as far as I'm concerned, you know, I'm going to fight it to the end.
So how do you protect yourself when looking for loan modification help? Here are some tips. Never pay money up front for a loan modification service. Make sure your lender knows that service. Only deal with nationally certified credit counselors and ask to see the certification. Go online. Find out what others are saying about your service. Finally, never pay money up front for a loan modification service, period. For SoCal Connected, I'm David Lazarus.
If you'd like advice on how to avoid being taken to the cleaners, go to our website at kcet.org/SoCal.
You're watching SoCal Connected, winner of 6 Emmy Awards.
We began this program with a report on the hidden homeless. Because of the worst recession in decades, the homeless population continues to grow. Or does it? A new government census reports the number of homeless is actually down dramatically, but the real numbers may be elusive. Steve Lopez of the LA Times has reported extensively on the homeless, including his highly acclaimed book and movie, The Soloist. We asked him for his view in tonight's commentary.
A report this month by the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority claimed there was a 38% drop in the homeless population in Greater LA, from 68,000 in 2007 to 42,000 as of last January. Good news, right? Well, wait a second. Could that possibly be an accurate count here in a region that's been called the homeless capital of the nation? Not a chance, say some nonprofit service providers. David Snow of Upward Bound House, a Santa Monica agency that serves families and seniors, told the LA Times the so-called homeless population decline was a surprise, a shock, and contradictory to the reality he sees. Andy Bales, who runs the Union Rescue Mission in downtown Los Angeles, told me he was dumbfounded. Bales said he has seen more need lately, not less, with an unprecedented surge in the number of women and children knocking at his door. So why the discrepancy? It isn't easy to count the homeless, a largely transient group with a high incidence of mental illness, or to even agree on what constitutes homelessness. If you're in and out of a shelter or the home of a friend or relative with no permanent housing or realistic hope of any, are you homeless? The tally in question was based on a 3-day survey in January, and unemployment in California has risen sharply since then with no end in sight. Michael Flood of the Los Angeles Regional Food Bank says demand for donated food is booming. Barbara Osborne of Loaves and Fishes in Van Nuys sees people tumbling from the ranks of the middle class and asking for help. Until the economy recovers and until there is more affordable and supportive housing for those in need, including a growing number of physically and psychologically broken soldiers returning from overseas, far too many people will spend their nights in parks, in cars, and on the streets. The exact number isn't important. What's important is public support for nonprofit providers that are helping those in crisis, and at the same time, a greater commitment to long-term solutions from political and civic leaders. Without that, Los Angeles will remain the homeless capital of the nation, whatever the precise tally. I'm Steve Lopez.
Watch for more of Steve's unique brand of reporting on SoCal Connected. And you can, of course, read his column twice a week in the Los Angeles Times. SoCal Connected won't be here next week, so we can bring you a special holiday presentation, Family Matters, a touching documentary about foster kids and the unusual people who have become family. That's our program for this evening. I'm Val Zavala. Good night.
SoCal Connected is made possible through the generous support of the Amundsen Foundation, serving the Los Angeles community since 1952, with additional funding from Jim and Ann Rothenberg, Linda and Abbott Brown, the Elizabeth Hofert Daily Trust, the John Randolph Haynes and Dora Haynes Foundation, by U.S. Bank, and by UCLA.
The carbon dioxide emission problem is the biggest problem facing society. At UCLA, we've invented a class of materials. We call them crystalline sponges. They are very good at capturing carbon dioxide. They take it in, hold it, release it, and then seek out more carbon dioxide. The idea of taking carbon dioxide then and turning it into a fuel is really now in the research and development stage. But all great things start with a dream.
Since 1863, the dreams of millions have taken off with us, U.S. Bank. As our country has grown stronger, so have we. Today, we are one of America's strongest banks, focused on the future and eager to lend. So every dream, big or small, can keep growing stronger. Imagine what you can do when you have all of us serving you. U.S. Bank.